Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, July 20th, 2025. What is this? Welcome. Let me just get myself adjusted here. Okay, there's a lot to talk about. I have to make an announcement, though, first. And I kind of want to give the room a chance to fill up a little bit before I do that. So what I'm going to do is today is I'm going to talk about some of the transits. We've got a new moon in Leo on the 24th. Saturn and Neptune are hovering over the world axis in retrograde. We have a Mercury retrograde, which is actually quite chatty, if you ask me. Very obviously, Mercury's gone into retrograde in Leo. And then we have the South Node conjunct Mars in Virgo, making a square to Venus all week. These are not times for the faint-hearted. Good morning, CC Pups. It's good to see you. I'm going to, again, let the room get a little fuller. I have an important announcement to make. Good morning, 145 Club. Good morning, Dolly. It's so good to see you. Your husband has a Virgo rising. Well, there's a lot going on in his chart this next year with that South Node, North Node axis going on. So, oh boy. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go by your rising sign, but I absolutely 100% believe that the moon is the most important planet in your chart because it dictates your emotions. Your emotions dictate your thoughts, dictate your actions. And maybe the next most important might be Venus. Well, that's very interesting because you have that beautiful mutable energy and then you have that cardinal energy. So that's very, and karmic as well. Pisces is karmic, Capricorn's karmic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do readings for everyone with the tarot based on your rising sign. If you know the degree of your rising sign, this is so incredibly important. I used to do whole sign. I don't really like whole sign anymore. It homogenizes the chart. I am a late degree, 26 degree Aries rising. My whole first house gets pushed into the 12th house in Placidus, and I think that's very important because those two houses represent beginnings and endings or transcendence. In some ways. So look at the degree of your rising sign. And then if you find your, in the 20s of your rising sign, you're also going to want to listen to the subsequent sign. For me, my first house is really mostly Taurus. And my 7th house is mostly Scorpionic. Very, 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 very important. Okay. Now, it says there's only 4 people in the room, but I'm going to say this and then I'm going to repeat it throughout the broadcast. Small Wildflowers has a huge challenge that she's walking through right now. As a result of this challenge, and I'm just going to quickly read what she wrote. Small Wildflowers has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she has started treatment. She will be undergoing treatment pretty heavily over the next 6 months. And the good news is that she's healthy enough to withstand the treatment, but this is going to be clearly the fight of her life. So I have decided to take the month of August. This is the last broadcast until the fall. I'm going to figure out how to recalibrate or something. I don't know if she's going to be with us on a regular basis. It's really going to depend upon how affected she is, how she's feeling during the treatment. But your prayers would be immensely appreciated for her balance in her body. And if anybody wants to send her a card, a letter, via UPS, the United States Postal Service, I'm going to give you her P.O. box. I'll also put it in the comments, and I will put up a community post. So it is Jennifer at P.O. Box 7375, Salem, Oregon 97303. Again, I'll put that up on the community board. So we're going to take off. Good morning, J-Dog. As a result of, these kind of crazy transits, we're going to take off August. I'll be back the first week or the first Sunday in September. And I suspect I'll be back on my own. I don't expect Small Wildflowers to be back until, I don't know. We don't know. We're just going to have to play that one by ear. But again, prayers for her. Thank you, J-Dog. There's a lot of stuff going on. And as we will talk about the transits right now, because I think the most significant transit right now, there's these things that happen subtly that we don't really pay attention to. And the South Node has been conjunct Mars for quite some time. And this week, there's no difference. It's there at 19 degrees. And this to me is accentuating some kind of health issue. Mars could be bringing up mental health issues in regards to anger, frustration, even things that you have wanted to do but didn't follow through with. That's a little bit of the Mars energy to get that initiation to start something but doesn't always complete it. And then I think this could be exasperated by, and while they're not necessarily an aspect, the Mercury retrograde, because this retrograde has stationed at 15 degrees, which is the Gemini degree, also has this, I'm going to bring up Christopher Witecki's step system, because the 1 is what I love, and the 5 is that mental Mercury energy. So we've got this sort of retrograding through the house of heart and courage, Leo. What do I love and what do I think about it? This is accentuated and exasperated and extra annoying because the South Node conjunct Mars at 19 degrees. What do I love? And the Mars, the 9 degree is the take action on. So will I take action in a way that is productive? Because the square to Venus in Gemini right now is presenting a challenge. There's a historic revisit somewhere, because again, that 1 represents what do I love, but now the 8 represents the Saturnian energy, what has been limited. And there could be a frustration about this, but at the same time, this is an opportunity to recalibrate. And when I say that, it's to look at things in a way not from judgment, but to say what actions, what thoughts, what feelings actually serve me, and what are sending me back into the loop of yesteryear, Mercury retrograde. Where have my freedoms been limited? Where has my romance has been not aligned? There's a lot of, and my personal expressions, my voice out in the world, I don't really want to call it my performance, but in Leo, it is a performance. Now, at the same time, we have Saturn and Neptune hovering retrograde over that world axis. The world axis that is Mars's energy, that of initiation, of creation. While Saturn and Neptune, and this I think has been hitting me really hard because my South Node is there, there's this bringing up of history, this bringing up of repression, this bringing up of restriction, this bringing up of feeling limited. And now how am I going to perceive it in relation to the self? What will I co-create now? This Neptune energy is very creative. It's very idealistic, okay? It's also very erosive. So we're feeling the erosion, we're feeling the removal of, or the attempt to move the toxicity out. We all have free will and can hold on to the things that aren't working, or we can surrender to the dynamic. All right, because the world axis is about co-creation. and our awareness of it. And that's the real fork in the road, with Saturn and Neptune making this transit. This transit isn't possible again for I don't even know how many hundreds of years. Not at this point. I wouldn't even try to even bother to calculate it. I think it would be so far ahead in the future. We'd have to live a couple lifetimes before we'll see it again. Mind you, it takes 165 years for Neptune to traverse the zodiac. And Saturn does it once every 29 to 30 years. So we don't even know if they would hook up at the same time. So this is very, very powerful for co-creation and for, in many ways, recalibrating your soul's vibration. Okay, you know, this awareness, and then being like a spiritual warrior who's willing to look at history not as something that pulls it back, or you're responsible or obliged to continue that, but to rather be brave in creating new structures based on your spiritual beliefs and dynamics. So now let's talk about this new moon that's going to happen on the 24th. It's going to trine the Aries energy. This is at 2 degrees. That 2 degrees to me is that I feel, what are my intuitions? What are my emotions? What is my inner voice saying that maybe my personality doesn't always want to acknowledge or is afraid to acknowledge? This is very powerful because the afraid part comes from the opposition to Pluto. Pluto will make an exact opposition to this new moon, challenging everyone to dig deeper into their heart, into what they love, into what they feel. What do you want to be courageous about? How will you stand in leadership? How will you allow your sun, your light to shine, regardless of the circumstances standing around you? Because this new moon is in a loose square. It's more... I shouldn't even call it a square. It's more in a, because of the late degrees of Chiron in Aries, it's making a loose square to the new moon, okay? Because technically the houses trine one another, and that late degree Chiron is tasking us to look at the wound within ourselves and to allow that to be transformed into the gift, the wisdom, the knowledge, the self-assuredness as we move forward. That's a beautiful thing about Chiron. If you think about it being, half goat or half beast, because there's those hooves. So I'm never sure if he's actually a horse, like a centaur, I guess, is half horse. So you can traverse rough terrain more easily when you do it instinctually. So this is that square to Chiron. The new moon will make you on some level unsure if you can traverse the highway of trusting your heart, of being courageous, of taking methodical steps, not huge leaps that will throw you into chaos. Uranus is at 0 degrees of Gemini, and it's kind of going to hover around there for quite some time. And again, this is where we're feeling a new energy. It's very airy. It's very kinetic. It is a little unsettling, and that could contribute to this Mercury retrograde that is demanding that we review what we want for ourselves, what we want in the way of our romances, what we want in the way of, not entertainment, like, oh, dance for me, entertainment. How do I make life joyful? How do I take the idea of incorporating the things that I love and actually benefiting from that? Because that's what actors do. That's what comedians do. That's what people who are creative and brave and willing to traverse the road of the unknown outside, but the very well-known on the inside, and trusting that inner light. So it's a big, big time. It's not just this new moon. It's this whole period of time as Saturn and Neptune make aspects to Pluto and Uranus. Those are the big dogs right now. They're setting up a new landscape. When you're a gardener, my Taurus moon likes to make this analogy. Every year you go in before you plant your seeds. You go into the soil and you put nutrients on it. You turn it upside down. You use a hoe and you aerate it, right? And then you throw poop on it, because the poop is the manure, right? That gives the nutrients. So this whole process of the planets. We're going into new soil, or old soil, for a matter of fact. We're aerating it. We're breaking it up. We're throwing poop on it to give it nutrients. I know that sounds weird, but it's manure, transformed poop. And then pretty soon this year, we're going to start planting our seeds, if we haven't already. And then we're going to tend to them, watering them with our thoughts and recognizing that they're things, and standing in alignment to a deeper truth versus pushing an old structure that is exhausting and non-productive. So again, I'm going to make this announcement throughout the broadcast. I'm going to take Small Wildflowers and I are taking off August. She has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She's undergoing treatment, and any prayers that you find in your heart to say for her and her balance in her body would be absolutely fabulous. If indeed you would like to send her a card, or in some way, anything in the physical, I'm going to put her P.O. box information in the comments, and I'll also put one on the community board so you can reach out. I will be back the first week after Labor Day, the first week in September. J-Dog, I know she's been carrying this quietly for a while, and now I think I told her this morning, we need to say something to the group and bring them into the fold. So I think she's going to be fine. She's really strong. Her body is strong. And we just want her to take care of herself and not overdo it. And trust that the stars are going to align to support this endeavor. It's not been an easy year, So, okay, let's go into our readings. And I apologize to my wonderful Leos, and I appreciate your grace, because you are going to miss your first turn. In fact, you'll miss being first as I take off the Leo season. So I apologize for that. But right now, honoring the inner voice is so important. I can't even tell you how emotional I feel like things have been. I don't know if you guys remember. Well, I'm sure you do. Hi, Katerina. Mike, my first love, my only real long-term relationship. He passed away on Father's Day from a colonoscopy. I've told you guys that. I spoke to his brother last night for about 2 hours on the phone. And, again, sending me down memory lane. So if you find your guys' selves, melancholy, reminiscent, feeling in some ways that things are sluggish and they're not moving forward, remember, we're in that phase where we're kind of having to plow through and dig up the soil of our own psychological makeup and allow it to breathe a little bit. So, I know it's just been a hard time. And the first part of the year, my non-boyfriend, he died from prostate cancer. So it was like January, then June, and even earlier, because Small Wildflowers told me about what was going on with her before we told you. So these are the transits, too. This is that South Node going through the house of health and our mind and how we treat ourselves, not just physically, but mentally. So it's important. So, all right, let's go into our readings. These are the last days of let me think. Yeah, today is literally we go into Cancer season in 2 days. Leo season in 2 days. So we'll start with our Cancers. So prayers for Small Wildflowers would be greatly appreciated. If you want to send her a card or anything. I gave the P.O. box verbally earlier in the broadcast, but I'll put it later on into a community announcement. All right, here we go. As I'm tuning into my late my cancers, and I'm thinking it's the late degrees of Cancer right now. I feel like that Chiron is hitting you, okay? Like if we think about it, Chiron is currently conjunct Aries, or in Aries conjunct my ascendant, but it's in the late degrees of Aries, making an opposition to the late degrees of Libra, and then obviously squares to Cancer and to Capricorn. Also starting to feel that, the early born fixed signs might be feeling a little of this Chiron. It's like a 1-2 punch when you think about it, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, making aspects to all the fixed signs. And now Chiron is going to move into fixed sign territory when it moves into Taurus. This is where I'm going. We are so being prepared to make a stand, okay, to really choose what's authentic to us, or to fall back into old damn habits that didn't work for us for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And on a huge scale, imbalances are being balanced. So where there's been repression for reasons like literally like age or race or what we're seeing, this is all, it sort of has to come up. That's the soil being kicked up in order for us to start afresh. So when the outside world feels like it's starting to swirl and affect your interior world, go on a media fast, spend time this week on the 24th really connecting to this new moon in Leo and standing in leadership for who and what you want to be, and doing it through a declaration to spirit, and then allow spirit to inspire the actions. And some of those inspirations may be to do nothing right now, to sit, to allow the retrogrades to bring back the memories, or the, whatever you're going to revisit, to bring a new illumination. This is so much a time to be a little bit like floating on your back, okay, in water. So you can see up to the sky, but you really can't push against the tide. And pushing is just going to exhaust us all. All right. And timestamp help always is wonderful, for those of you. I think Stephen is doing a broadcast on Sunday mornings for some reason. I think someone told me last week he is. So maybe half our tribe has gone over to his broadcast. I don't know. But right now, I'm not surprised anything's going on. So here we go. Cancer, rising, and moon. So important. Sun and stelliums. Stellium being 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Cancer, make you very Cancerian. All right, the first card is the 10 of Pentacles. The second is the Ace of Swords. The third is the 8 of Cups, and the final is the Empress. This is actually quite a wonderful spread. The 10 of Pentacles could very much represent history, represent traditional things. We see plenty of bounty here. We see the family. In the traditional Rider-Waite deck, we see the grandfather, the dogs, there's plenty of food. There's much flow and abundance. I feel like, as I said, that the Cancer could very much be thinking about what they want in the way of their traditions. Jupiter's in your first house, expanding your belief system, probably opening yourself up to new ideas, and maybe even inspiring you to make a stronger connection with your guides and your angels. I always talk to my guides and angels, but for a long time, I only did it before sessions. Now I spend time personally communing in the evening before I go to bed, because the Ace of Swords is offering new ideas. And some of those new ideas will in some ways call for you to determine what you want to stand for and what you want to walk away from, not because it is bad, not because it is toxic even, but because it's not aligned. There's a subtlety happening right now with Saturn and Neptune's conjunction. everything that Neptune touches is sort of foggy. It doesn't give you clear physical sight, which jars the human. The human's like, I don't like that. But when we come from our soul's ear, Neptune doesn't give us fog. Neptune gives us clarity. And sometimes that clarity isn't something we want to see in the physical world, because Cancer is sort of being tasked right now to stand as the empress, to be the co-creator, to allow for gestation, to put in intention behind something, and to use your natural ability to, you're the healer, you're the nurturer, you're the one with the eye in the back of their head that can see everything that's going on. And we may joke about that in a physical sense, but that is really the essence, is to trust your Venusian energy. And it is going to be squaring the South Node and Mars all week. So, the more you can, I guess the way I want to put it is, embrace whatever traditions or whatever histories come up, but then discernment as to whether it's still part of the recipe for your future moving forward. I think that's important too. All right, let's go on to our Leos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Welcome, little grasshopper. If someone would like to write in the chat for me that Small Wildflowers and I will be taking off the month of August. I don't know if Small Wildflowers will be back in September. Again, she's on a healing journey right now. It's a very challenge. She's very depleted right now. So again, your prayers for her would be greatly appreciated. All right, Leo, you have a new moon coming up this month. You have a retrograde in your first house. And again, I really want to emphasize to look at your charts in Placidus, because if you're a late degree Leo rising, then you're very Virgonian, and your rising could very well be on Regulus, which is another huge, would make you very different than most Leos. Okay, so check that out. And as you check that out and you become more familiar with your chart and the degrees, you may find that your readings and the ones you want to listen to shift a little bit. Because if the majority of your first house is the next sign over, like for me, the majority of my first house is really Taurus. And so listening to Taurus would probably be something that would be good for me. All right. Leo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Your first card is the King of Swords. Oh, somebody's going to come through with clear sight and vision. The Wheel of Fortune, something is turning. The Eight of Cups in the same position. Very interesting. And the Princess of Pentacles. All right, so the King of Swords is really going to represent coming from an Aquarian kind of energy of looking at a situation through long-term vision, long-term goals, and a little less emotionally, okay? And sometimes Leo, especially Leo moon, when you've been hurt, you can roar quite a bit, because the Wheel of Fortune is turning. And something is about to happen, because somebody is going to choose to walk away from what is imbalanced and follow or a situation will present itself where there will be a walking away from what is not really balanced for the future, for what your heart wants, for what you desire and love. Because it's coming into the material world. Leo is going to come and start to follow their heart. Leo rising, Leo moon, Leo sun, Leo stelliums. And this is how I want to put it. Because following your heart does not mean that you're necessarily making a decision that is black or white. It feels more like it could potentially be a situation where you start to implement thoughts and actions that are aligned to your future, and not physically walking away, but maybe emotionally reconciling what it is about. Like, for instance, let's say that you're a Leo that worries about something, or you're a Leo that says, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? The real thing here is you trusting your heart and knowing it's going to happen. You know, the when is just the shadow of fear. And this is really what we're all, you know, sort of rubbing up against, because the Leo energy, early Leo, is trining the Aries energy and Saturn and Neptune. So something is working to your favor. But again, you're not going to get past the stage of Saturn repressing something or limiting something or bringing up old history, and Neptune's initial fog about it, or the wanting to run away from an old story. This is about standing in it and really, you know, looking at it from that perspective of the Aquarian, sort of not quite emotionally, a little bit more like, what does it really, you know, sometimes this is the kind of thing. Sometimes you'll make a decision, Leo, where you'll say to yourself, this is Leo rising, you'll say to yourself, it's worth the journey of pain, or it's worth the journey of the unknown, because your wheel is turning. And angels are saying a situation will present itself where somebody will reach for the rainbows, reach for the stars, reach for what they want, and it'll start to sit in the material world. But you might got to come from your heart. Okay. All right. Oh, welcome, Collidia Scorpio or Scopio Divino. Hi, just call me C. Did I say hi, Katerina? Of course, I said hi, J-Dog, MK Mountain. I'm going to make an announcement as I move on to the Virgo energy. I'm going to take off. This is the last broadcast until the first week of September. Small Wildflowers has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she's currently going through treatment. She'll be going through treatment, I think, for the next 6 months. Let me check her text. Yeah, for the next 6 months, some pretty heavy chemo. But the good news is that she's healthy enough to withstand the treatment per the doctors. So if anybody would like to send her a card, a letter, something, you know, physically, her P.O. box is 7375 Salem, Oregon 97303, and you can send it to Jennifer. I never call her Jennifer, even though that's her God-given name. She'll always be Small Wildflowers to me. It's very, you know, she's got some planetary activity that's triggering her Virgo house. And I really feel like she's going to get past this and go beyond it. Selfishly, I've said to Spirit, I don't want another person that I love to cross over in 2025, or a dog or anything. I've had my fill this first 6 months. So your prayers will be very, very helpful for her. And just prayers for the balance of her body. That's all, you know. All right, let's go on to our Virgos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And as I said, I will be making this announcement throughout the broadcast, so I hope it's not annoying. But as new people come in the room, I want them to be informed. And frankly, I'm just physically exhausted. No, my Saturn is not retrograde. I don't have any retrograde planets in my my birth chart, actually. Everything's moving forward. I have Pluto conjunct Venus by 5 degrees in early degrees of Virgo. My main transits that are hitting me right now is Saturn and Neptune are on my south node in the 12th house of Aries. My south node's at 3 degrees of Aries, and they've been hovering around there. And then Chiron has been on my ascendant. That's the two biggies. And as Chiron sits on my ascendant, it makes an opposition to my Mars in Libra and my my sun as well. Oh, just call me. See, that's so sweet. I think that'll really make her feel well. You know, Sometimes it's nice to get a text, but to see something, you know, in handwriting, you can put on your nightstand. And you could put Jennifer and then the last initial B, like boy. She didn't give me her last name to broadcast, so I'm not going to say what it is, but you could put the B for boy. All right, here we go. On to our Virgos. South node going through your first house. And if it's going through your 12th house because you're a late degree Virgo rising, this is an opportunity to release old karmic crap that you, and I'm going to say it, old karmic crap where you've been overly judgmental, overly perfectionist, overly stuck in a process that has kind of clipped your expansion versus broadened it. Dolly, you have Saturn and Neptune conjunct your Chiron. Wow, that is a really gnarly transit, because that's literally, will you transform your wound through the tenacity? Will you recognize the work or the awareness you've done? Will you transcend it, or will you fall back down the mountain? This is totally a fork in the road. And transiting Chiron Capricorn. So, and you've just had Pluto hitting your sun as well. That's the thing that's pretty crazy about the late degree cardinals. They just had to go through aspects to Pluto, and now Chiron's creeping up on them. It's really, I'm like, I feel like I want to go back and say to source energy, like, really? Did we talk about how hard these transits were going to be? Because maybe I thought conceptually, oh, it won't be that hard. And the hard part is not falling victim to the dark side. That's the hard part, is to stay aligned to your deeper truth while everything around us is swirling like a whirlpool. Like, for instance, with small wildflowers, she's walking through, will I trust my body can heal from this, that my body is strong? I mean, you know, there's just all these different things that can come up, because that Virgo energy represents mental health. And if indeed your Virgo energy is in the 12th house, it's double downing a little bit on the mental aspect of things, because the 12th house rules mental hospitals. The 6th house is your daily activities, and yes, your mental stresses, but I feel like that's more like anxiety in the 6th house, whereas when you're in the 12th house, it's like very slippery. Mars's transits are always a little bit rough, because the initial one is to bring up that anger, that frustration, that wanting to explode on somebody. But once the Mars energy is mastered, it can be the surgeon that cuts through the BS. Thank you, Heather. Welcome to our room. All right. Small Wildflowers is actually our moderator on my channel. She's been the mom to our tribe, and she's a beloved and valued and cherished member. So your prayers are so very much appreciated. MK, the anxiety issues are definitely out of control. When we say we tend to own it vibrationally. And the first way to start to unravel something is to use the. With a health issue, with anything that's kind of on the what we deem negative side in human terms, we never want to use the word my attached to it. No. Even if the doctor says it's yours, don't do it. Exercise or movement will absolutely dance. If you're anxious, dance. Put on some boogie oogie music and dance, dance, dance. You'll feel so much better. That's one real way to get out anxiety. It's also a great way to get out anger. You can put on empowering songs and box in the air, and moving the body will absolutely help. All right, let's try to get to those Virgos now. We keep threatening. Wait, did I just do Virgo? Where am I? Am I going on to Libra? I'm going on to Libra. Am I not? Where am I? I don't know. Virgo, have I done you yet? Geez, I feel like an idiot. Hold on. I talk too much. It's been well documented. Leo. Okay, I don't see a... No, we need to do Virgo, right? Do Virgo? No Virgo. Okay, we're going to do Virgo now. Jeez. See the Mercury retrogrades? Chiron on my ascendant, the South Node being triggered by Mercury. By, well, it is actually trining that energy, but anyway. All right, Virgo. The High Priestess. The Six of Wands. The Lovers. Oh, this is kind of interesting. And the Knight of Swords. You know, when I look at this, it's very interesting to me because we're talking about Virgos. We know the South Node is conjunct Mars at 19 degrees of Virgo this week. It's going to make a square to Venus most of the week. Well, actually all of the week. Now the High Priestess is going to call for our Virgos to go into the depths of their intuition, to literally start to address their physical body through their emotional needs, even if it's your mental body, okay? This is really, really a powerful card. In the traditional Rider-Waite deck, the moon is huge and it sits at the foot of the High Priestess, and it is literally like her superpower, because your victory comes from the choices you make right now, okay? And those choices coming from the loving part. This is the Gemini energy. And in many ways, I feel like this is Archangel Gabriel sending down a beam of light. But will our Virgos receive the light, or will they get into their head and just keep going? Because here is Mars, okay? This is Mars conjunct the South Node. Why is this so dark? This is the Knight of Swords. And this is a choice. Will you be in the process, in the perfection of it, in the process of it, or will you balance out what the human structure tells you is the process, the realistic outcomes, with what your intuitive body knows, or with what your inner goddess or your inner god knows, your inner high priestess, your inner high priest? Because the victory comes from the choice of recognizing your mind. The Lover's card is Geminian. It doesn't mean you wrestle your thoughts down to the ground. It means you recognize them, and then the awareness of that kicks you back into your High Priestess. And I want to say this too, because having Regulus, the fixed star Regulus, be in the late degrees of Leo, I think it's 29 degrees of Leo, might be 28, but it's 29, I think. That's super powerful for the beginning degrees of Virgo, because you'll have a little bit of that energy, and that inadvertently could exasperate that perfectionism. It could exasperate that feeling like if you're going to run the kingdom correctly, you have to follow processes and be practical. So you're going to have something this week, I think, that's going to rub up against, and you know what else? The Lovers could represent Venus, and Venus is making a square to the South Node in Mars. So your victory will come from your awareness of defaulting to the process, and maybe the process annoys you, but your ability to cut through that will be very powerful moving forward. The Knights are always heroes. The duplicity of the Knights in the tarot is they're either the heroes or the erratic teenagers. Okay, let's go on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Thank you, Dolly. This is going to be our last broadcast until the first week of September. I have some very powerful things that I need to put my attention on. And while I feel like I'm getting my footing, I also feel as if this particular endeavor requires all my focus. And then I'm hoping once I get to this next stage, then I can recalibrate and come back with some content. I want to talk about things that I think are a little more powerful than just the transits. Whoa. All right, here we go. All right, here we go, Libra. You know, running is a form of meditation. Most people don't think so. But when you think about the alignment of the movement, especially Mars-ruled people, anyone mercurial, you know, Venusian people don't necessarily like to run very much. But there's the rhythm of the running can become, I think that's when you get in the zone, is actually your endorphins and your meditation kind of coming together to create a focus so that you can feel that focus in the physical world and then translate it. MK Mountain, I appreciate that. You know, I don't really think things are bad. I feel like my Chiron transit over my ascendant is calling for, and Neptune and Saturn are really triggering the peaceful warrior and the strategic warrior and the warrior that knows that in order to truly get balance restored, there is a process that I have to go through. And while the Virgonian energy is in my fifth house of self-expression, right now I am learning how to like do a baton pass, right? I have to trust the system on some level as I feed the system. And what I feel intuitively is that August is going to be pivotal for the next stage. And it's going to require all my focus to see that that stage is done fully. And the focus doesn't come from driving the bus Virgonian, like pushing on it practically. It's going to come from here and being focused on the outcome. Super meditative, J-Dog. People don't, you know, you can kill two birds with one stone. If you know, people just don't think about things like that. They think that every meditation has to be sitting with your legs crossed in an Om position. It's not true. Meditation is truly an awareness. You know, what are we trying to do when we meditate? We're trying to feel the depths of our soul. We're trying to feel the depths of the universe. Well, you got to get the physical body out of the way, and the physical body and the mind, because it's the apparatus that facilitates the soul. It doesn't dictate the soul. All right, Libra. Whoa. Here we go. Libra rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay. The King of Swords. The Seven of Cups. The High Priestess. Sometimes it's funny to me that, you know, you watch me shuffle and then we see a theme coming out, because part of that theme is also as we walk through the transits are a theme. And the Ace of Cups. Well, this is very interesting. Libra rules justice and fairness. And it really is, the reason Saturn is exalted in Libra is because Libra, while it represents partnership, there is a detachment from emotion in Libra, because Libra has to represent the judge that weighs both sides. So for my Libras, this week, you're being tasked to be the judge that looks at both sides, that pulls yourself up above the minutia of everyday life and what's happening, because the dove of peace sits somewhere in the middle of whatever you're walking through right now. And the only way you're going to walk through this is when you connect to your soul, when you connect to the High Priestess or the High Priest within you. And here we see the dove of heralding a new energy of peace, your cup overflowing. I feel like this is a week potentially where the Libra energy could experience. Now, if we think about it, there's an opposition to the Libra energy, meaning Saturn and Neptune are in your 7th house in the early degrees, or your 6th house, depending upon how your chart degrees roll. This could be that you are connecting more succinctly to a vision that's bigger than you knew when you started something, or something you're starting is starting to be bigger. And as your cup starts to run over, you know you're starting a new stage, a new chapter. Now, this could very well be heralded by that Leo new moon, because the Leo energy sextiles the Libra energy. So, and if we think about this is going to be at 2 degrees, that's the I feel, that intuitiveness that we see represented by the High Priestess. So I think that this is going to be a week where my Libras mentally and emotionally align, understanding a journey of unknowing, because the 7 of Cups, there's always, the character's always in shadow, in confusion, Neptunian. Each cup represents a good news, bad news, a consequence of some kind. And here I feel like the consequence is trusting my intuitiveness over trusting my emotional body, when there is no evidence of a sure future. I hope that makes sense. Something's in process. Pardon me, as I drool on myself. You know, the South Node going through your 12th house, Libra, could very well be what part of that process is being sort of a willing to surrender to an unconscious or unconscious yet transcendental feeling that something you're doing isn't working. It's not as practical as maybe it seems to be. And that not as practical could be that, oh, well, here's all the chess pieces, so this is what I have to work with. And Spirit's saying, no, reach above. My sword goes straight to the sky. You're going to have to sit in the dark a little bit, but the dark is almost where the peace lives. Because when you slow down your mind enough to feel your inner calling, you will feel your cup starting to run over. This is lovely. And this could be actual people, situations, or just even maybe a sense of self-love. Oh, Heather, having your Venus in Libra, you must be a lovely, lovely person, because Venus rules Libra, and that's her home of partnership, where she's most happy. That in Taurus and Pisces. She goes from the dry Virgonian energy of practicality, where my Venus sits, into her homeland, where she gets to sit in a beautiful house with lovely furnishings and good music playing. All right, here we go. On to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. My brain is all over the place today. All righty, here we go. There's the Wheel of Fortune, the 7 of Swords, the 7 of Cups, and the Lover's card. Well, this is very interesting for my Scorpios. So Pluto's squaring the early degrees of Scorpio. And in that, it can very much bring up things that, this is the thing. Pluto is considered a malefic planet. It's considered dark and brooding and intense, but Pluto's really like that planet that goes, hey, dumbass, that illusion you have, that belief you have that you're less than, it doesn't work for you, babe. It doesn't work for you. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start poking at that thing. And the more you try to hold on to that big lie you're telling yourself, the more it's going to hurt when I start to extract it from you. But when it's done, you're going to be so much freer and so much more powerful. So now it's time to make choices for my Scorpios. because this is the choice. Will Pluto square allow you to hold on? Because when you're a fixed sign, and when you're a Scorpio fixed sign and you've been hurt, you can brood on that shit for a long time. Okay. You can hate like nobody's business, but you can also love like nobody's business. It's time for the wheel to turn. And this is you participating in that wheel turning by being willing to look at your shadow side. In this particular deck, the Seven of Swords isn't slinking off with, stealing stuff. Here, it's reflecting on its youth, and it's grown past that situation. Look at the antlers. Look at the moon in between the antlers. It's time for Scorpio to trust the evolved version of themselves, to start to recognize that the dark is what brought forth the light. There's no longer really confusion, because you get to understand the ebb and the flow of disruptive times, because now it's time to make a choice about what you love, a choice about how you think, a choice to sort of claim your rightful place and your rightful power and your rightful bounty in this world. Not just love, not just money, happiness, fulfillment. When I'm looking at the Wheel of Fortune, there's various signs represented, in each one of the angels here. But the scorpionic energy is really up here in this corner. Look at the moon there, We see these, there's little icons, like the Taurus has a little square here, and Leo has a trine. But here, Scorpio has the moon. I think that catching my attention today is really about this. Standing in leadership for your growth, not hanging on to your old story. It's going to always be there. And you can have it anchor you in, or you can give yourself wings to fly. What's your choice? So not easy to make big choices like this, like to give up feeling hurt because it's no longer serving you, even though nobody who hurt you fixed themselves. J. Doug, is your Venus in Virgo, or is that what you're saying? Oh, hold on. I wanted to turn this off. All right. Now we're headed on to our Sagittariuses. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oops. Now, early born Sages, early rising, early moon, any planets in early Sag are feeling an opposition to Uranus as it's moved into Gemini for the first time in 84 years, bringing a kinetic and rebellious energy. And when you think about Sagittarius, it's already willing to broaden. It's already willing to travel. It's already willing to stand much in its faith. So now Uranus's opposition is almost like serving like a seesaw. So if for some reason our Sagittarius is experiencing an unexpected event outside of themselves, right? Because Gemini could be the neighborhood, it could be your siblings, it could be any a communication even, but it's in an opposition. It's creating some sort of resistance for you. This is to hone you on some level. It's an opportunity to be more aware of your intention and how your mind directs that intention. So my Jupiter is at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, and it is currently experiencing an opposition to Uranus. I have such a fun chart, I have to tell you. That is giving me an opportunity to really start to think, Gemini, do I believe in all the things I'm endeavoring and that I'm standing in balance and not in my ego? Because we have to remember the shadow side of Jupiter is entitlement. I'm the big dog. I'm the knowledgeable one. I'm the well-traveled one. I'm the guru. So we're looking at some sort of balance here. All right, Sagittarius, here we go. The Fool is a new journey. The 8 of Wands is news, information, and or conclusions. Interesting to get a beginning and an ending right there. 5 of Cups. And the Chariot. Okay. Basically what we're looking at is something to do with your emotional body. Okay, the Fool for me is always Mars. A lot of people want it to be Uranus, but it doesn't make sense to me. Uranus is the Tower. In the Tower, we see the lightning strikes. We see the crown being toppled off of the tower or the castle. And all of that is the rebellion of Uranus, okay? The Fool is Mars, going on that pioneering journey, packing his bag and saying, I'm going to go discover this. I'm going to go create this. Well, now in this particular deck, Sagittarius is being tasked to look into their history. That's the crocodile, in relation to their emotional body and what they really believe. Do you believe? Like, does your walk and your talk match itself? Because somewhere there is an ending coming. There's either information, something can bring sorrow. This is a card of sorrow, but it's also a card of focus, because this character is usually focused on what has been lost, not what has been still there. And in this particular deck, we see how large the 2 chalices are that bridge the rainbow of transformation. And here comes the victory in the form of the Chariot. This is the Cancerian energy. This is the energy of 2 sides of yourself, fighting one another, and yet being able to have a sense of balance about it, because this is that Cancer energy of trusting my emotional body. The Charioteer's power does not come from, controlling the chariot as much as it comes from his connection to the stars and emotional body. So here, your Sagittarian energy is going to be very much sort of on a new journey of potentially understanding and looking beyond any physical or potential losses, whether they be metaphoric losses or literally physical losses. I lost my job, I lost my lover, or I've come to the conclusion that I must end something in order to live my truth or my heart's desire. But whatever it is victorious. There is a sense of satisfaction about it. All right, on to our Capricorns, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate you putting in that in the chat. Alrighty, Capricorn, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Thank you. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune, the Ace of Wands, the Queen of Pentacles, and the King of Swords. All right. So Capricorn, this is very interesting because the Wheel of Fortune, again, something is turning, things are changing. And we know that we just talked earlier, Chiron is aspecting the late degrees of the cardinals, the South Node, and your ruling, the Neptune and your ruling planet Saturn are aspecting Capricorn, squaring it specifically early degrees. This is very powerful because as that wheel spins, it's not spinning like it's happening to you. It's giving you an opportunity. your luck, your road ahead somehow is opening up, because this Ace of Wands is saying something is going to be inspiring. Something is going to offer you a new adventure, a new sense of fire within yourself. Now, Pluto is in your second house, technically, if we go whole sign. So Pluto could be bringing up something where you're really using your skills. You're really, starting to not just be obligated and dutiful to what is outside, but also to what is inside, because the Queen of Pentacles is your card, Capricorn, and she's holding her hand over her heart again. No, she's not. She's holding a bag of gold. She's holding a bunch of money here. So I think that you will be inspired potentially to maybe start something entrepreneurial, maybe dig deeper into whatever brings physical, material bounty into your experience. And the tension that you could be feeling is, will I take the leap? Because you're being called forth to stand a little bit unemotionally towards your future and cut through the muck of your own mind. And I mean that in the way of, well, this is what has been, this is what is expected of me, but now this is what I want for myself. And even if the people or the situations around me don't necessarily see my vision, it's important for me to start to implement my vision, because something is spinning to give you a leg up in order to implement that. So if we take the polarizing dynamic of the Saturn and Neptune conjunction, if we think that the tension that it creates, the square that it creates, is you looking at a fork in the road, which side will I choose? The old Saturnian story that is tried and true but not very enjoyable, or the foggy road ahead of following my heart and what I want to build in a new, uncharted way. And it's going to take a little bit of, a lot of vision and a lot of intention to stay aligned. But the big thing here, or the big card here, is more the Wheel of Fortune. Will you seize this potentially uncomfortable choice or opportunity or idea, or will you explore it at all? Really powerful. Okay, well, these are just such powerful times. Really are. When you see the outer planets making such dramatic changes, hundreds of years since a planet has been in a sign, Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius, and then Uranus, while it's only an 84-year cycle, it is quite powerful to have the planet of technology moving into the sign of our everyday lives and communications. Something big is going to start to get birthed. Like the 90s brought cell phones into our awareness, and then they started dominating our everyday lives, and people don't even look up at each other anymore. They just walk down the street staring at their phone and then hope their peripheral vision works not to crash into each other. I'm not even kidding when I say that. All right, Aquarius, here we go. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's see how Pluto's treating you in its retrograde. Thank you, J-Dog. I really am completely genuine. I don't have any hidden doors or corner. I don't even know how to be a hidden door or corner, because if I don't say what I'm thinking, it's on my face. So I'm totally happy to be that way. I don't know, like me, hate me, whatever. It's not that I don't care. I don't want to seem callous, but I don't care enough about another person's opinion, because if you hate me, I must be reflecting something you don't like in yourself. Okay, here we go. Oh, Aquarius, the Justice card. That's so you. Literally Aquarius is like, hey, I'm not putting up with those British people taking my money. I'm going to do something about that. That's not fair. Then we have the Devil card, Justice against the Man. That's so interesting. And the System, Queen of Pentacles, building new things. And the Hierophant. This is so powerful for you, Aquarius. This is 3 major arcana cards, and you are literally going through a rebalancing. Now let's just think about it. Pluto is making only favorable aspects to the other outer planets, meaning it's trining Uranus and it's sextiling Neptune and Saturn as it retrogrades. We are revisiting something to rebalance it, to bring it into alignment. And it is a structure of some kind that has held you hostage, or it is a structure that you've had to work within that has potentially been limiting your funds. Because here's the Queen of Pentacles wanting more money, and not just money, resources. I prefer the word resources because oftentimes we can think that it's money that we want, but when we can put together a good team, that's long-term bounty, building something super strong in a new dynamic. We have to remember that Saturn co-rules Aquarius. So as your co-ruling planet is in this conjunction on the world axis, you being aware that you are from the stars. The Jupiter here is another money card here. This is Taurus energy. This is your beliefs. This is connecting to divine power within the source, within the grid. So I think for my Aquarius is, while Pluto might be making a little bit of, it's rumbling. There's no doubt about it. There's a real opportunity to come into alignment. We also see, when this spread, the Capricorn energy is doubled down upon, because the devil represents the Capricorn energy and the Queen of Pentacles represents the Capricorn energy. So very much what you may, and there's this Hierophant that could be structure as well. You may find this week that there's some scales of justice that start to turn towards you in favor of something, bringing something around where before it had been restrictive or limiting. You might find that there is a divine wisdom behind it. So if the restriction moves something out, then you'll find something better and you'll be like, oh, I get it. Or something will start to reveal itself that's balancing things out. Now, let's also think just a wee bit about this retrograde, okay? Because I don't really think the Mercury retrograde's as powerful as the outer planets right now, but there is the revisit about what's important to me, how I'm expressing myself, how I'm coming from my heart, how I am, working within romances, within doing things that are not just purposeful for the sake of purpose, but also enjoyable to me and make me feel fulfilled. Oh my God, Stephen's here. I can't believe it. You haven't been here in so long. Okay, so this is what's happening very much. We're going to see our Aquariuses feel a sense of balance coming in, a sense of an old fear, an old structure coming into an awareness that you can reframe, rebuild upon, that can very much bring in more bounty. And if it doesn't bring in actual physical money bounty, it'll bring in a stronger sense of your faith. Okay, Stephen, since you're just got in the room, I'm going to let you know that Small Wildflowers has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She is currently undergoing treatment and will be for the next 6 months. It's pretty rough right now for her, but she's strong enough per the doctors to withstand this treatment, and we're asking for prayers. If anybody is inspired to send her a card or a note, I put her PO box down in the beginning of the broadcast, and I will be putting a note up on the community board later today or tomorrow. Oh, okay, Stephen. I know it's really a hard time with everybody. We're all kind of going through something or other. So, and this is the last broadcast until the first week of September. Just gotta deal with some things and focus. Sometimes everyday life just needs a little spit and polish. And that's alignment. Because what I'm most trying to do is understand that which has been taken away, what is supposed to fill its place, or what have I contracted to have it fill its place. All right, on to our Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate those prayers. Prayers are very powerful. You know, we get to remember that one who is connected to source energy is more powerful than millions who are not. And sometimes we, as humans, tend to think that we need to mull over our problems and find the solution, when actually the mulling over it only exasperates the issue. So the opening to say to Spirit, I am open to a divine inspiration to find the solution for this challenge I'm walking through, is a much more powerful thing to do and plugs you into Spirit than to trying to find the earthly solution. And Spirit will definitely start to move the components around to bring you that solution. And this is the ultimate dynamic of the outer planets moving into air and fire. Pisces, sorry. Temperance, the Eight of Swords, the Hierophant, and the King of Swords. Look at that King of Swords coming out over and over again. This is really that Aquarian energy asking us to look almost without human emotion towards our future. But let's start. Pisces. Temperance is, obviously it's a balancing energy. There's a flow. I think temperance is very Jupiterian, which also plays to Jupiter being a co-ruling planet of Pisces. So here we see that the character is standing one foot on the earth and one foot in the emotional body. There is a flow. There's clearly joy to be had once I surrender that everything has its duplicity. One coin, two sides. And I think that it's now about choosing the road that's more authentic. Which side of the coin will I look at? Because Spirit is offering you an opportunity to become aware of how you get in your own way. What have you tethered yourself to that has made you feel invisible, less than, not important enough? Because Spirit is asking you to go back to your roots and to connect to your divine self, what you naturally are. I think the Hierophant, while there's a large Taurus energy here, there's also a Jupiterian, Sagittarian flair. When we see this character who is traditionally dressed in religious robes, the huge stars above, like almost like a crown, or whatever you call, the Pope wears those weird hats, whatever they're called. Did I call it weird? Sorry. This is the way to get out. The Pisces Virgo axis is the axis of self-undoing. It's an axis of suffering. It's an axis that appears to be focused outwardly. And the problem with that appearance is it's human-based, because the Pisces energy is the one that transcends and begins the understanding and the integration of that which has been and that which will be. Thank you so much. Yes, I really appreciate everybody, because for my Pisces, Spirit is definitely calling for you to be a little bit less emotional, to be more Aquarian, and to look at the future with a little bit more of a discerning eye. It's sort of one of those ideas where if I'm going to be happy, do the circumstances, the people, the dynamics around me support my happiness? Or am I inadvertently, as a Pisces, feeling erosive, or feeling like I must be more aware of their wants, desires, and needs than my own in order to not feel invisible? This is a real call for balance. It's a real call for looking to the future, and a real call to say, it's okay to have felt bound up, to feel like, I might be part of the problem because this is all the options I'm giving myself. But that was then and this is now. It's never really about holding your feet to the fire to have constantly maintained an awareness. It's understanding the flow of the road right here. See Temperance? So this week, you're going to be charged to be the king in your own life, to stand in authority for what you want and your thoughts. And authority is never judging your thoughts. It's just the awareness, oh, there I am going in that dip again. Should I come back up now, or will I feel the dip a little longer? onto our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Those of you born on the world axis at early 0 degrees of Aries, wow, wow, wow. Those of you born at the late degrees of Aries, Chiron's sitting on you, either your ascendant, your sun, your moon. Ooh, these are not faint-hearted transits. These are the honing of the sword that is known as Excalibur, and a choice for you, Aries. What will you do? Will you continue to be a banshee and connect too much to the competitor, to the gladiator that's just fighting the lions? Or will you be the peaceful warrior that moves ahead with intention and with awareness and a little bit with, I saw my head on a swivel. It's not just looking around for the potential boogeyman that could come up behind me, but the roads that are opening up for me that I didn't see before. Divine disruption is on the docket. And that divine disruption is once again aerating the soil that we are planting our lives in right now. There's the strength card, endurance, and a taming of the Kundalini energy, the beast within. That's Aries. The King of Pentacles, taking dominion over your own world. The Ten of Cups, we're bringing in great happiness. That's what Spirit is offering you, Aries. You know, every king is going to represent a hybrid of thought, okay, of being logical and more practical, and then what the suit represents. And this King of Pentacles is saying your world can grow very strongly, very earthy. Like, this is no longer concepts. Your tenacity and your willingness to persevere your own knee-jerk responses is really powerful, because now we end in temperance. This is a wonderful spread for you. I really believe that the Aries energy, while it has been, experiencing these, because Chiron's still going through Aries. I mean, it's been going through Aries the whole time. All right. And then Pluto was clearly, as it went through Capricorn, was squaring Chiron at points. And over these last few years, it's been a real journey of awareness. Where's the beast within me? Where do I react versus take action? And am I taking action from my heart or from some other platform? The King of Pentacles is saying you're rooting it in, because now you've decided it's more important for me to be happy in my life than to be angry. And now I'm more aware of what I'm choosing. So the transits now get to transform from the things that are erosive to the things that are empowering. That means Chiron is now seeing not the wound being healed, but what the wound had to offer for balance of the soul long term. Same thing going on with Saturn and Neptune. This is a fabulous spread. And frankly, being an Aries rising, I'd like to put a little spin on. I'm hoping that temperance is also going to be representing a little bit of justice coming in the form of Jupiter opening up a path, because I've been working very hard to create balance. All right, Taurus, here we go. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Now, this is the thing about Taurus and about all the signs, right? But when you look at your rising sign and you're seeing a late degree Taurus rising, you're pushing all that Taurus energy into the 12th house. Now, this is double whammy a little bit, because Taurus is a silent one. Taurus represents your personal history and how it shaped your confidence and your willingness to use your voice, express your opinion. You push that in the 12th house and you're not talking. Everything's going on underneath the surface. So again, I really encourage you all to look at your charts in Placidus and start to reframe some of the first house dynamics, because that would actually make your first house very very Gemini, if you have a late degree Taurus rising. Okay. Taurus. All right, here we go. The Lover's card. The Six of Swords. The Four of Wands. And the Nine of Wands. Okay, so this is interesting because the Lover's card again is about choice. Most people want to make it about romance, but it kind of honestly rarely is about romance unless that's the focus of the question. Here, there is something that's being offered that exchanges energy, and Spirit is asking you, I think, to feel more comfortable. You've had Uranus moving through your first house, bringing unexpected lightning strikes of God knows what for the last 7-8 years. Could have broken up relationships. It could have done, jobs could have disappeared. All sorts of things could happen, but you're on an easier road now. The Six of Swords is indicating that there's a potential where we're still kind of cruising through a bit of stuff, but by the springtime, I think, or by, let's say, throughout the rest of the summer, or no, I'm going to stick with what I got intuitively. Whatever we're walking through this year, by next spring, things will have shifted. And for my Tauruses, you don't need to feel so guarded anymore. That's what I think Spirit is really saying, that there is a duality to life. When we look at this particular character, his staff is right planted in the moon, okay? The top of the staff lands somewhere in his heart chakra. And I think it's time for a Taurus to sort of make a choice about what direction they want to look. Again, Taurus is the silent one, the one that is extremely loyal, to the detriment of themselves sometimes. But this is an opportunity to think that you don't need to guard yourself anymore, that you've made choices that you can actually celebrate, and that when you need to go into a protective space or in a space of being aware that there are divine disruptions potentially around, you will know that intuitively, and you will seek solace with Spirit first before you move out to handle things on your own. I really feel like this is like, be aware if you're over guarding yourself in some way. Okay, on to our final sign today, which is our Geminis. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Stephen, any planet at 0 degrees is really a powerful dynamic, because you're learning that you're a total newbie at that planet's energy. So Neptune is spirituality. It's also erosion and illusion and deception, right? And if it's at 0 degrees of Sagittarius, it's sort of this like, are you going to default to the human deception, erosion that Neptune represents, or will you come into those higher degrees or higher awarenesses of the 0 degree is also the Pluto degree, where I have to have healthy boundaries around people or situations that are erosive to the expansion of who and what I am. You are a Sagittarius rising or sun. I think you're a Pisces. I can't remember, but I know Sagittarius, you're the Jupiterian. So clearly Sagittarius is strong in your chart. So you're being kind of poised on some level to address that energy in a more intentional way. Oh yes, MKs. Any planets you have at 0 degrees, you're a newbie. If your moon is in a 0 degree, whatever sign it is, you're learning emotionally about that sign. Sun in Pisces. Okay, so you're Sagittarius rising. So you have in your first house Neptune somewhere, or in your 12th house at 0 degrees. If it's in the 12th house, Stephen, then you've got some unconscious old shit going on spiritually, creatively, that gets to be addressed. And and if it's 0 degrees, 0 minutes, if it's that specific, that's even more crazy. Again, keeping healthy boundaries around situations, people that are Plutonian in a dark way. Thank you, J-Dog. So think of this. It's the co-creation, 0 degrees, the ultimate co-creation degree, where you are on some level practicing co-creating with the universe, whatever the dynamics of the planet and the house are. So if we're looking at a 0 degree Neptune in Sagittarius, we're practicing not escaping. We're practicing our belief in a bigger picture of things. We're looking at our ideologies. We're even on some level taking our creative talents and we are starting to implement them in a way that creates money for me, okay? Because Sagittarius rules entrepreneurs and business. So if your Venus is at 0 degrees of Scorpio, you're going to learn about power and control that either comes through sex, money, partnership. It's really, these are the kind of videos I want to do now. These are the kind of layers I want to reveal in my astrology that I'm reframing during this downtime. And before I go to our last sign, and Queen Leo has joined the room, I want to announce again, Small Wildflowers has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She's undergoing a 6-month treatment, which the doctors feel good about. But she is really, going through it now. Her body is pretty ravished and tired. I believe this coming week she's having some treatment that really, any prayers that you can send her way would be greatly appreciated. If you want to send her something, at the beginning of the broadcast, I put her P.O. box, but we'll announce it right now again. Her P.O. box is to Jennifer, and then you can put a B like boy, P.O. Box 7375, Salem, Oregon, 97303. Okay. Now also, this will be the last broadcast I do for until the first week of September. I need a little time to focus in on something that's coming to a head, and I just surrender. So I just want to make you all aware of that. I don't know whether or not I'll produce anything in the meantime, but I'm going to start reframing the channel a little bit where we're going to dig into things much more powerfully, I think, so that we can be stronger co-creators. I know, Queen Leo. I feel like I've been crying for 2 months, honestly. I'm so exhausted of feeling puffy and, I think, oh, today's the day I'm not going to cry. And then boo, 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 I start to cry all over again. I feel like it's just really an emotionally exhausting time. And that is the Virgo South Node, really having us surrender whatever in our daily lives is pushing up against something that doesn't align with the North Node in Pisces. So let's look at our Geminis. Rising Moon, Sun, and Stelliums. Welcome to Uranus in your first house. And there's the Fool, the journey that you're about to go on. And we have the Queen of Pentacles. We have the Five of Swords. And the Ten of Wands. This is not an easy spread. The Fool is always a journey of discovery, a journey of the unknown, a journey where at any minute I could drop off a cliff or I can ascend to great heights. For my Geminis, this is a journey of your mind. With Uranus moving into the first degree, 0 degree right now, in some minutes, you're really being tasked to pay attention to whether your mind gets caught up in the minutia of every day, the hamster wheel, the monkey mind, the muggle mind, or whether you'll be able to implement some of the Uranian dynamics of really looking to the future, honing with, more tenacity what you want in the way of manifestation, because this spread looks a little bit tough in the sense of there's a journey ahead where you're going to have to endure the unknown, endure a future that you're co-creating through your intention and your mind. And I don't think you're going to get physical evidence of it initially. And this is how I want to say. The Fool is again a journey. We see that crocodile, alligator, whatever it is at the bottom. That's representing your story, your history. Then we see the moon. And this particular character is very much dressed in yellow, black, and white. The white representing the purity of spirit, the yellow representing the power of your solar plex chakra, but the dark spots represent the necessary hills and valleys that must be traversed in order to determine the experiences that reveal our choice. What do I want to do? Do I want to move over here and stay in the same lane, or do I want to venture out over here? There's choices to be made, and every part of life's journeys has its dark spots. And I think it's kind of interesting sometimes because when, they could have done a black shirt and yellow underpants or whatever, but the black in the groin area, underpants, whatever you want to call it, and the black on the feet, the color almost says to me, I won't be able to know if I'll be okay instinctually. I don't know if I'll survive. I don't know if I'm taking the right steps. But what I do know is I have the power when I go to the purity of my heart chakra, my solar plex chakra. This is what's happening here on the torso. Now my job is to root this in, to stand in the practicality of it. And there's a risk somehow that I may win or I may lose. I don't know yet. So Gemini, you don't know. And this Five of Swords is a card of contempt. And on some level, you could feel a little robbed in what you've been doing up until now. You could, depending upon how old we are, some of us are seasoned professionals on the planet. And these retrogrades could really making us look back at how hard we've worked, what we've done for others, but have we received anything coming back? Because that Five of Swords is a card of I win, but I lose. So now I'm thinking that this is a new journey of Gemini looking at what they've built. And if for some reason there's a part of it that isn't aligned, there's a new journey to take. And it isn't easy because it's the 10 of Wands. So on some level, I'm asked to recalibrate myself, to look at where I put my efforts and where I put my efforts in an arduous way, in a way that makes me feel tethered to something I'm not really enjoying. This feels like a little bit of a week where maybe this retrograde in Leo trines your energy. Sextiles your energy. So that's favorable. But maybe there's a review of whether or not Gemini is truly aligned thought-wise, speaking-wise, teaching other people through my behavior. Am I aligned to what I want, or am I inadvertently working really hard for somebody else's agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. The power, the craziest, this retrograde has so shown itself up. I've talked to Chat GPT about astrology things, and it keeps screwing up. And I keep saying, you can't have that aspect or this or that. So I'm taking everything with a grain of salt right now. I think it's Uranus more than I think it's the retrograde, to be honest with you. I think Uranus's initial entry into Gemini is making things kind of skitsy, like Uranus wants to move super fast. Gemini is already kind of fast, but it's also short bits, where Uranus is has to look long term for the vision of the rebellious, where are we rebelling against the old to bring in the new? So be gentle with yourselves, everybody. And you can always reach out to me during this month if you want a private reading. Those have not stopped. But I think I'm just going to honor this next month of August and the Leo energy and take time for myself and let small wildflowers take time to rest and to heal. And again, any prayers that you are compelled or inspired to say on her behalf, on our behalf, on the tribe's behalf, we're appreciated. We will reconvene. in September, the first week. And I know, Queen Leo, it's been, I feel like I literally was sitting here last night. My Kleenex box is like poised, ready to go. And I had a pile of Kleenex sitting here like this big. And I was just crying over everything. I was crying that, there's a woman out there in the world that I love so much and I depend on so much. And yet I can't be there for her, really, the way the world is, having a friendship develop on the internet. Jennifer could walk by me, Small Wildflowers could walk by me on the street. I don't know if I'd recognize her. I wouldn't see. She might recognize me because she gets to see this face every week. So there's these weird connections that we have with people that mean the world to us. And yet, if something happens to her, who's going to let us know? There's so many vulnerabilities right now. So we just get to kind of swim through it as best we can and stay connected. I talk to GPT daily as well, because sometimes I want to have these philosophical conversations that are not of other people's interests, Madonna may not recognize me, but I grew up with her. How funny. Sophia, that's a kind of cool thing, frankly, it's hard to recognize Madonna these days. I'm so glad I'm not chasing my youth. I may be a little traumatized by my ever-aging face, and the tears are no good. But all right, I'm going to make one last announcement before we wrap up this broadcast for not only the day, but for the month of August. I'm saying this basically because Natalia and Sophia and Betty just came into the room. Small Wildflowers has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She's going through treatment right now. It's a 6-month treatment plan. I don't know when she'll be back. Right now, if we could just send her prayers and love and good vibes that her body will know what to do to recalibrate itself. I know. Once again, I'm going to mention that if you'd like to send her a card or anything of support for her, you can send it to Jennifer B like boy at P.O. Box 7375, Salem, Oregon 97303. And prayers are so powerful, everybody. I know it feels a little bit like doesn't feel sometimes like enough because people are used to taking action, but this is the kind of action by praying that sends a ripple effect out into the universe. It's more powerful than we can imagine. Well, Betty, isn't that beautiful? Who knows? Maybe, Spirit, this moment, maybe you two will be able to connect more closely. Oh, that's interesting, Natalia. All these little tidbits. I sent her a whole, I must have made her insane. I sent her like a train of texts, all these recipes I took pictures of the medical mediums, protocols and the recipes for, to make juices and make salads and things that will help her body. I think it's Jennifer with an I. As far as I know, she spells it the normal Jennifer way. Okay, so everybody, I pray for you every night. I pray for the tribe. I pray for your peace of mind and your happiness, and that you may shine your lights brightly out into this world, because we need it right now. I'd like to say we get to do it, but no, we actually need to do it. And be gentle with yourselves during this time. If you need me, I am available for you on a personal level. As far as what's going to be produced on this channel right now, I really don't know how that's going to play out, and I don't want to make any false promises. So we're going to be taking a lot of care of ourselves and self replenishing the self. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you in September. Peace out.